So, I was looking up today that Hulu's going to be live streaming a stunt by some Red Bull pilots. I believe it's going to be April 24th when they're going to do what's called a plane swap, where two pilots are going to go 14,000 feet up into the air, go into a 90-degree nosedive, like the nose is pointing straight down to the ground. The two pilots are then going to jump out, skydive, and then switch places, hop into each other's airplane, and then pull up and fly out and ride off into the sunset. I mean,
that's crazy.
I mean, don't get me wrong, man. If they actually pulled that off, that'd be fucking dope. Imagine how freaking cool that would look. Like, fuck yeah, man. You know, like brass dipped titanium coated balls right there. And from what I understand, this has never been done before. This is like the world's first, and they decided to live stream this, and Hulu's going to be a part of it. And I want to say one of the pilots, air quote pilots or skydivers in this, did a stunt before where he was the first person to skydive without a parachute, and he landed into like this giant safety net thing. And
that was this guy?
Yeah, I want to say that was him.
Was it the Luke Akins?
I think it was Luke Akins. Either Luke Akins or Andy Farrington. I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of those two. He jumped out and he landed into a giant safety net. And I think the only one who did something similar to that was Travis Pastrana, the stunt motocross dude, the stunt motocross guy, where he jumps out and he chases after his parachute.
No, I think he jumped out without one and then got clipped into somebody else.
Oh, okay. I know it was
the only difference is he was just wearing boxers when he jumped out. He didn't wear anything. Goggles, a helmet, and some boxers.
That's true.
In true Pastrana style.
That was pretty dope too. I think he shotgunned a Red Bull too before he did it.
Yeah, I want to know what that was mixed in that Red Bull, because it's got to be something else.
Yeah. So yeah, picture that dynamic, right? Like you got two planes. I think they're using Cessnas or 182s. They're going up into the air about 14,000 feet.
Are they using 182s?
Yeah, I want to say they're 182s. I want to say so. The article doesn't say, but I want to say they're 182s. They're going to go up in the air 14,000 feet, point it straight down, facing the ground, perpendicular to the ground, and just dive, go on a straight dive, jump out of the plane, switch places, and then and then pull up. Now, obviously, there's going to be some control measures to this. There has to be. There fucking has to be, because in most cases, when you lose control of a plane, right, aerodynamics are going to win. The plane's going to go into a spin or do a tumble or something to the effect where it's not going to stay in a straight line.
Well, this one's got a barn door of a speed brake strapped to the belly, so
right. And I want to say, before they even considered doing this, they consulted with an aerospace engineer. I forget the person's name. I think it starts with an I. I'm going to butcher this. Iskold? Dr. Paulo Iskold? I'm fucking it up. I'm sorry. But so they got with this guy, and then they actually like mapped this out to where they're going to engineer the speed brake that MVP was talking about on the belly. So it's kind of like this flap that hugs the belly of the plane, and then they engage it and it opens up like a barn door or a hinge. I mean, and it's supposed to keep it in a relatively controlled dive. So at least like if it's spinning, it's going to oscillate on itself instead of like going into a straight up uncontrolled tumble, which is cool. You know, you kind of want that. But
yeah, definitely. I mean, you got to keep it as nose down as possible. That's the only way they'll be able to actually get inside the AV again. Because if it's in an uncontrolled tumble or spin or even a flat spin, I mean, that's going to be dangerous for those skydivers to try to re-enter the cockpit. Just get smacked by the wing, the tail, the prop. Did it say, are they cutting the engines out when they do this, or are they leaving motors at idle?
I want to say there was a video attached to this that it kind of implied that they're going to be shutting the motor off. And
I would almost think you would have to, otherwise it'd be just accelerating towards the ground at faster than you would want.
right.
Because I guess my thing is like you probably want to slow the speed, the terminal velocity, reel that back as much as possible. Again, with that speed brake, that would do that. For anybody who hasn't seen it, if these are 182s or whatever, I mean it's a massive speed brake on the bottom of this thing.
Yeah.
I guess that's why I called it a barn door. It's huge. Like I feel like they could go and stand on this thing. It's so
Right.
big, you know?
Yeah. It's freaking huge. But it has holes in it, right? Like, so it's not just going to be like a full on stop. Um, from what I understand from the video that they were explaining it is, so they're going to dive and then they're going to hold on to one of the braces for the wing and then slowly like shimmy their way into the cockpit. The explanation of it was pretty sketchy. I mean, like, it makes sense if you were a skydiver, but since me, I only did like maybe 2 jumps in my entire life versus some of these guys did like 18,000, 20 some thousand jumps. So I'm assuming they know what the hell they're doing. But they're going to jump out. Once they get to the plane that they're swapping to, they're going to shimmy their way in from the brace on the wing. And then once they get into the cockpit, there's no wind like trying to pull them back away from the plane. And then they turn all the switches on and they get the engine engaged and then up she goes.
Now, the one pilot, he said that this one, they've done the engineering, they've done the testing, they've done trial and error stuff. He said they put a lot of time into it. So to me, it makes me think they've done this successfully a couple of times already. It's not just, hey, we strapped some plywood to the bottom of this 182, put a nice Red Bull wrap on it, threw a parachute on our backs and said, let's have a go. So a lot of time and effort obviously has been put into this. So obviously you want to minimize any risk you have.
Right.
And every time you have the risk, but to me, it seems like, again, they've been able to put a little more effort into it and the trial and error and such like that. So be kind of curious to know how many times they've done it successfully already.
Right. I would say they probably have at least done like a air quote plane swap where there's pilots in the thing, like someone other than them, and then they just did the swap just to see if they can physically do a plane swap versus let's have no pilots other than ourselves swap planes and then just fly it off on our own. So I'm hoping that's what they did. I'm hoping. So one of the jumpers, Luke Akins. Wow, I'm really fucking it up today. Luke Akins. He was one of the consultants for that one record-setting jump of 127,000 feet with what's his name, Felix Baumgartner.
Baumgartner.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he was the consultant on that jump. I'm not gonna lie, man. Like when you have to wear a spacesuit to jump.
I remember watching the video of that thing, and he's just stepped out onto the platform, and like my whole body was tingling.
I'm not gonna lie. I thought
just looking.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, it was just my body was just tingling with like I felt like I was standing there looking back at the earth, and
Right.
that's just it's just so. He's got, like you said earlier, titanium coated balls of steel, man. Like it's it's wild. I mean, talk about when you do stuff like that, right? And we all talk about thrills and a rush and adrenaline, and like, what do you do after you do some of the stunts these guys are doing? Like, hey, what's the craziest thing you've done in your life? I jumped out of I went up to altitude, me and my buddy in our planes. We nosedived, jumped out, and then swapped planes and landed back down. Oh, well, yeah, I drove 85 miles an hour in a 55, so pretty much the same thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what do you do to top that? Like, every time you got to go bigger and bigger and bigger. And you mentioned Pastrana earlier, and he's kind of one of those guys who do that too. It's bigger every time.
Yep. I think for that, the plane swap, the only thing that's really gonna top that was or was the SR-71. Like, well, I flew through Nebraska in like 3 minutes. So yeah. Or
yeah. I flew through some heavy turbulence once, landing into Omaha, Nebraska. So pretty sketchy stuff.
Right. I did a VFR landing with like zero visibility.
Yeah. On a well lit airport. Awesome. Just it does say, hey, I found an article here on Red Bull's website, and it did say they are going to cut the power to their engines midair. When they start free falling, then they'll jump out and swap planes.
Wow. I mean, like you said, like it would make sense for them to do that, but at the same time, like me as a mechanic, I'm seeing like all the red flags in the world about this. You know, like what if like the aircraft doesn't engage in the time it, the do not pass go line, or the line of no return. Like the engine kicks on, but it doesn't kick on in time for it to generate enough lift to pull out of the dive, or like say like the engine doesn't turn on at all, or the flight controls fail, something like off the wall, like this could turn into a very bad thing.
So that's another thing, right? As that aircraft's in a dive, I wonder if they have to drill any holes in like slats or flaps or whatever to keep those oscillations to a minimum, right?
Right.
Or are they locking when they nosedive? Are they locking the yoke in a certain position to hold those at neutral to get the most smooth? Because imagine, right, if you didn't do that and your one aileron, left aileron kicks up or whatever, I mean, that puts you into a spin right there. So I'd be curious to know if they're going to lock those out. But again, you lock those out. So when you get in, the first thing you got to do is unlock, start motor. Like there's a whole sequence of events, right? Everything's got to be done at the exact moment. Precise timing, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't know.
Right. And can you imagine, man, like the ground crew or the maintenance crew, when these guys pitch this, like, hey, fellas, check this out. I'm going to dive 14,000 feet. I'm going to switch planes and fly into someone else's plane. I'm like, you're going to do what?
Or imagine you're the mech. Yeah, they come in. Hey, man, I'm going to need you to put a speed brake on this thing. Why? It's a 182. Like it's cruising at like 180 max. I don't even know if it goes that fast, to be honest with you. Those who work on small aircraft, let me know. And they're going, well, so here's the thing. I'm actually going to take it up. Me and old homie over here, we're going to nosedive it, jump out, and swap planes. Just want to run that by me one more time again as he's looking at the blueprints for this massive speed brake. You're gonna jump out and swap the. Who bought off on this? Imagine being the FAA guy, right? When they file for their flight plan, sitting there waiting for the approval, and you're like, all right, let's get this rolling. Takes a sip of coffee, goes across the desk. All right, United Airlines wants to go from here to here. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, we're one from Red Bull. 14,000 feet, nosedive, swap. What? Hey, Frank, can we do that?
Like, excuse me, what?
They shut the whole operation down. Everyone in the FAA FSDO is like combing through the FARs trying to figure out if it's allowable or not.
Right? He's like, he's drinking his coffee, like thinking it's going to be another slow day. And like, they want to do what,
Spits his coffee out everywhere.
Just goes, I want some butts. Who the hell put this on my desk? This ain't a joke.
Oh, ha, everyone. It's not even April 1st yet,
Yeah. So, for people who are not familiar with some of the FAA regulations, there is a section on the Federal Aviation regulations about acrobatic flights. And that's on the Part 91, 303, I want to say it is. I could be wrong. Wait, part 91. Anyway, it talks about aerobatic flights, and there's really not much it says about it, other than you have to be properly trained to do it, which I really don't know who's going to certify you to do such a stunt. And then it talks about like you can't do certain stunts in a populated area. And in something in the case like this, you definitely don't want to be in a populated areas in case something fails. But there's really not much governing a aerobatic flight other than you have to be fully trained to do it. So I'd imagine that approval, as crazy it is, there's really not much stopping you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, or are they going to be over a closed range, right? Did they? I mean, they're in Arizona, right? And there's a lot of open space in Arizona, so didn't pick a bad area. It's not like they're going over downtown Manhattan and hoping for the best. They've obviously chosen a remote area in Arizona, but I don't. I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna.
Yeah,
I'm still stuck on the FAA thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, same, right? And it's not Part 91, Section 91303. So there it was. It came to me after the fact. But yeah, like I'm curious as to how the FAA just say, you know what? Why not? Why the fuck not? Go ahead and do it. And there's other things to it, like you have to be within 4 nautical miles of an airspace, or you cannot be below an altitude of 1,500 feet. That's kind of a given. Flight visibility needs to be clear for at least 3 nautical miles, stuff like that. Basic stuff, but nothing. I've yet to see anything. Someone listen to this, please quote us on, or please fill us in. There's really nothing that says anything other than about going into a 14,000 foot nosedive and then swapping planes.
Yeah, what was that FAR again?
It was FAR 91.303.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's about aerobatic flights. So again, if someone really knows like all the nitty gritty stuff about the FAR, please, by all means. And then what's the process it takes to do something like that? Like, what's the approval? Like, what do we have to show to say, hey, or to get the green light to do something like this? And then again, like I'm talking from the mechanic standpoint, pilots, please weigh on this as well. But from the mechanic standpoint, I can see so many things that could go wrong with this whole flight. By all means, go ahead.
One of the pilots said that he goes, it's not just stuntmen doing a crazy stunt. He goes, he wanted to prove that we're more than just stuntmen, that we can do the engineering, the testing, the design, and the execution. So does that mean that the Luke Akins and the oh my God, what was the other guy's name?
Farrington,
Andy Farrington. Are they also? I wonder if they're like aeronautics engineers, or what they're. I mean, obviously they're pilots. Parachute, skydivers, all that kind of stuff. But I wonder if they're engineers as well. Just out of curiosity, right? Say, hey, I designed, built, planned, and executed this thing from start to finish. So I'd be kind of curious to know.
That's a good point.
What their history is, or what their background is, or did they have to hire engineers? And the article, so they're obviously playing it close to the chest. They're not giving a lot of information away, but we saw this pop up in the news and we kind of wanted to cover it. But so we apologize if seems like we're lacking information, but there's not a whole lot of information out there. We're just kind of digging into what we can.
Yeah.
But I wonder what their background is, and it seems like they've been doing these kind of acrobatics for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd just be curious to know their thing. So for those who don't know, the 91-303 aerobatic flight, and Six touched on this a little bit, but it says no person may operate an aircraft in aerobatic flight over any congested area of a city, town, or settlement, over an open air assembly of persons. So, if you're outside and having a barbecue, I guess that's a no. Within the lateral boundaries of the surface areas of Class B, Class C, Class D, or Class E airspace designed for an airport. So don't go over LAX and decide to nosedive and skydive at the same time. Within 4 nautical miles of the center line of any federal airway, below an altitude of 1,500 feet above the surface, or when the flight visibility is less than 3 statute miles. For the purposes of this section, aerobatic flight means an intentional maneuver involving an abrupt change in an aircraft's attitude and an abnormal attitude or abnormal acceleration, not necessary for formal flight or normal flight, excuse me. So that's what the Part 91 says. So again, a lot of planning had to go into this. What did what kind of conversations, I'm curious, were had with the FAA, right? For me, that would be number one. Okay, I'm planning this, I want to do this, but before I invest so much time and money and effort, am I even allowed? So I would assume they probably had those conversations first and foremost with the FAA.
Right.
And it's Red Bull, right? It's not like this is their first time doing some crazy stuff. They've been doing crazy stuff for quite a long time. So they probably have their own, FAA probably has their own Red Bull sector just for this kind of stuff.
Right. Right. They're probably, like they're just sitting there waiting for the little phone to ring. Like, oh, good, we got something. Well, what is it today, fellers?
or it's a whole division of like chain smoking, coffee drinking, bloodshot eyes, and they're just kind of that shaky, It's like, well, oh my God, what are they going to come through with next? I don't, just, right. I picture it.
What's next? You want to do what? Roll it. Let's think about this. The good part is they're at least doing it the right way, where like they're making sure they're approved to do it. They got some engineering controls to help mitigate any unforeseen risks. Like they're actually mapping this out. There's not just a bunch of dudes like, what would be fun? Fuck it, let's do this. Shotgun a beer and fucking roll it. So none of that. We're just saying, like, at least they're not doing any of that craziness. However, again, from the mechanic standpoint, like, I can see so much shit going wrong, and there's some other stunts where shit has gone wrong, right? Where like there was an accident once with a stunt from Tom Cruise's film crew where that crashed. Or you hear like old stories from way back when two biplanes like try to pass by each other and they accidentally clip each other's wings or something like that. Again, this is like some way back stuff, and these were guys like they didn't have the advantages of technology to kind of model things out to see how it's gonna work before they actually try it. They're like, if I turn left, it goes right. If I go right, it goes up. Some shit like that, like some weird like fly by the seat of your pants shit. And again, like, as a mechanic, man, like I just see a lot of stuff that could potentially go wrong, and I'm just hoping like everybody and their mother like looks through this plane or these planes with fine-tooth combs and make sure everything is to the T correct. Like, because if that thing wrecks, if either of those wreck, that's the first thing that the FAA and NTSB and every safety council is going to be looking at. Like, did they make sure the tension was right? Did they make sure the ailerons were working right? Was the aircraft serviced correctly? Did they put enough air in the tires? All kinds of dumb shit that you never would expect them to look at. They'll be freaking fine-tooth combing this thing with a tuning fork. Like, what could have possibly gone wrong when it went wrong? Yeah,
I'd be curious to know all the mods that were done to those planes, what the IA, the engineering behind it, then the IA inspection after that, getting the approval for those modifications. Did they have to, were these mods already out there from within history, or did they have to go back to the OEM and get approval? Did you have to beef up the airframe in the belly of any area to have that speed brake mounted? What changed with the aircraft's, scheduled inspections or whatever else to ensure the safest operation of this? Are they running recommended oil? Are they using special oil? Were the engines modified in any way? Were the propellers modified in any way? Mm-hmm. Right? Are they using a different type of propeller with a different pitch to it, or variable pitch? I don't know. Or is it a fixed pitch? What benefits you in these situations? Man, we really need an engineer on here,
right,
to answer some of these questions.
Right. Well, but that kind of goes to say, right? Like when you come to stuff like this, right? A simple IA is not going to bridge the gap, right? Like all they're going to see is like, well, yep, it looks like a speed brake. Is all your documentation in place? Yep. Here's your service bulletin, or here's your modification change that says it was approved. Works for me, right? They don't dig any further than that. Unless they just know that trend and they have a little bit of an engineering background to think that way. But otherwise, like a mechanic or an IA or someone who's signing this off is just going to say like, well, here's all your documents that say that was approved. Fuck it, works for me. Right. But
yeah,
But like say like a flight engineer, he's the one who's going to be really on tap for this because like, did I engineer this correctly? Did I use the drawings? Did I ensure that the final product was to the specifications that I created? And then it all goes under their name. Like I made this, I engineered this, I came up with the math behind this. So if it does wreck or if it does have a problem, it's going to go right back to the engineer. Like, what the hell happened there, friend? Like, it sounded right on in math, right?
Right.
So that's really all that we can do. It's like from an IA's perspective or from an inspector's perspective, there's really not much I can do other than it looks like it's all there, right? Everything feels secure. It looks secure. It looks safe. It's all approved to be safe. So wipe my hands of the whole ordeal. That's really it. Like as an IA, I really can't determine if a pilot is certified to do this or not, other than, sir, can I see your pilot's license? Oh, thanks, friend. Have a nice day.
Yeah. So we were talking about, the backgrounds of these two individuals earlier, Luke Akins and Andy Farrington. So I pulled up a little bit of a bio here on Andy Farrington. Six, if you want to maybe pull up Luke Akins. So Andy Farrington, he's a Red Bull Air Force member. He's a cancer survivor, skydiving ace, pro swooper, and Red Bull champ. Andy Farrington is a king of the skies with over 25,000 jumps to his name. Holy cow. He's born in 1979. He's the youngest member of the Red Bull Air Force. That's pretty crazy, actually. I mean, I guess you want some seasoned professionals out there, but I mean, it's nobody that was born in 95. You know what I mean?
Right.
And 18-year-olds doing this kind of stuff. So what's kind of interesting as I was reading through his bio here, it says his mom made about 100 jumps while he was still in the uterus. So riding tandem. So the article says maybe that's why he's such a natural to the skydiving, because his mom jumped 100 times while she was pregnant with him. That's crazy.
Jeez. That's pretty dope. Right here it says for Luke Akins, this is also from Red Bull. He says he was a stuntman or a film stuntman, a helicopter pilot. He's also a skydiving coach. He's done more than 21,000 jumps, has over 8,700 flight hours, and he's done some consulting for for some military special forces groups. He's in the Parachuters Association. And he's the one who advised Felix Baumgartner on his 128,000 foot jump.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, like, these are no slouches. These guys are not dumb. And I'm not saying they're stupid for trying this stunt. I'm just saying, like, these are dudes who absolutely know what the hell they're doing as far as the actual stunt is concerned. So, like, don't just think, like, some random Joe can just strap himself to the side of a wing and then just let loose and try something like this. Not in the least bit. Like,
no, and here for Andy, he was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 2. After the doctors removed a kidney, they forbade his participation in mainstream sports. And he says, fortunately, his family, who loves skydiving, didn't see any problem with him jumping out of a plane. He made his first tandem jump at 12, went solo at 16, and has since accumulated over the 25,000 jumps and 6,000 hours as a pilot. He's in demand as an aerial videographer and photographer, but recently he's been spending time in front of the camera as well. He was also chosen as one of 5 stunt flyers for Transformers 3, featuring the first ever base jump from Chicago's Willis, formerly known as Sears Tower. Part of Red Bull team, recruited to play civilians in the high-octane Barrel of Monkeys aerial action sequence in Iron Man 3. So he's, again, no slouch to this kind of stuff.
mm-hmm.
Like just 25,000 jumps, been in movies. Again, the whole consulting thing. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. Same with Luke Akins. Like, so he coordinated scenes such as Iron Man 3, Godzilla, Fast and the Furious franchise, Ant-Man 2. He was also an aerial photographer, most of these scenes. And so here's a fun fact. But both Luke and Farrington are cousins. so they're
Oh, really?
yeah.
I didn't
So
know that.
yeah, so it says right here too, like the Luke and his cousin and fellow Red Bull teammate Andy Farrington. So they share a 40-acre property in Washington with an airplane, and that's how they they maintain their experience with it. So that's fucking dope. You know, like, hey,
That's pretty cool.
hey,
Imagine growing up with your cousin doing all these wild ass stunts.
yeah, he's like, hey, cousin, you want to? What do you want to do today? I don't know, friend, or I don't know, guy. Like, let's go up to 14,000 feet and try some shit. Like, all right,
Sold. Yeah, sold.
Yeah, you son of a bitch, I'm in. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. If they pull this stunt off, and I'm hoping that they do, because no one wants to see an accident happen. But when they actually pull it off, this stuff is gonna light the internet on fire. And then, like what MVP was saying, like what comes after that? What's next? Like what's the next thing to do? Oh, let's try it on fighter planes. Right?
We're gonna take 2 F-35s up, nose them at the ground. Yeah. We know the last planes we did cost maybe $100,000 in total, but hear me out. $48 million a piece, nose diving at the ground.
Like what? and to save face, we're gonna fly without the canopies on the whole time. Fuck yeah. Right. Oh shit, that'd be freak. That's like the only thing that can top that. I think that's the only way that can top that, because once they do this, everyone is gonna want to try to do this, or at least attempt to, right? And I honestly hope they do get it done, just so they like that could be like a capstone for humanity. Like this is it. Like until we figure out how to do this in space, this is it. Don't try anything crazier than this.
Yeah, the next thing they'll do is they'll be hitting up like some of the new civilian space tycoons out there. I'm like, hey, hear us out. Let us take your ships and shuttles to the moon. All right, we're going to go around the moon and we're going to nosedive them back at the Earth. We're going to jump out and we're going to fall for 400,000 feet and then swap and get back in.
That's really it. That's the only thing I think that can top that. That'd be so wild. I mean, again, this is happening on April 24th. It's going to be live streamed on Hulu. I'm sure if you guys don't have it, they're going to live stream it in every other place, because this is going to make some serious noise if and when they pull this off. And it looks like they are. They're very on track to pull this off, because the people doing it, they're not slouches. They know what the hell they're doing. And then they're bringing on people who have the know-how to make this as stable as possible. And the only thing that's really gonna hinder any of this is something that's unforeseen, like the weather suddenly shifts, or somehow someone didn't do their due diligence on the plane or whatever. They just kind of forego the final check or something like that. That's gonna be the only thing that's gonna really, so far that's all I see. That's gonna be the only thing that's gonna really make this thing turn sideways, is something that you just never saw happening, or something that you feel that's happened so much that you don't need to look at it anymore. And then that's when it turns craziness. That's my opinion, at least.
Yeah, it's going to be wild, man. And for all those out there listening, again, we're just going off of the information we can find and locate on this. Please, by all means, if there's any small aircraft mechanics, engineers, or whatever out there that can go into the mechanical side a little bit more for us, we'd be more than happy to hear it or have you on to talk about it.
Right.
I think it'd be fantastic to learn everything that went into it. Yeah, obviously we know they're no slouches and whatever else, but design wise, what made you choose those aircraft? What made you choose? What made you decide how we're going to slow it down? Because looking at the pictures, I mean, they got kind of like what I would call the balloon tires on them for landing on grass or dirt airstrips.
Right. And the only thing I can see negative coming out of this is, someone's going to have to try to one up it, right? Like, and we kind of been hinting at that throughout the episode, but like, at what point does taking the stunt too far go too far? Like Like when do we know we've hit the limit? And there's good and bad to that. I'm gonna admit, because sometimes like, oh, we can never go this far, and then we send the person into space.
Well, I would think you're, at least in this specific scenario, you'd be limited by the physics of it, right?
Mhm.
Terminal velocities and designs and then FAA.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we knew we did it the last time. Yeah, we approved that because you weren't going to be falling faster than 150 miles an hour or something like that. But now you're talking about you're going to be traveling 400 miles an hour in a nosedive. Like,
not with it at all.
Yeah, we're not with that one.
Yeah, or we're gonna do a supersonic nosedive. Like, no.
A supersonic nosedive.
All
right, we get out, and by the time they open the door, they're already in the ground. Like,
I don't think that's possible.
It'd be like a Looney Tune, man. It'd be like a Looney Tune thing where about the time the Wile E. Coyote realizes he can get out of his situation, he opens the door and then just straight into the ground.
Right. Or we're going to implement some unmanned aerial vehicle shit, right? We're going to put Skynet into the plane. They're going to jump out, and then we're going to prove that Skynet works, and then the plane's going to fly itself just before it hits the deck. You know what I mean?
What if they did wing walking on a UAV, on like one of the larger UAVs? Ooh. Strap themselves to the back. I'm not going to lie to you. I have pictured myself doing that several times.
Right.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't. But imagine that, like, okay, I'm going to strap myself to the back of this thing, and it's going to take off. It's going to fly around, do some stuff, and then land with them. And then maybe while you're up there, while they're in straight and level flight, you kind of walk wingtip to wingtip or something like that.
That'd be pretty dope, honestly, man. I'm surprised. I'm surprised no movie has tried that yet. Like, even if it's just CGI, that they haven't actually tried that.
Yeah, that might be. Red Bull, if you're listening, hit us up.
Yeah, right. We got some ideas for you.
I got some ideas.
We got plans.
We're wilding out over here.
Right. Like, don't mind that intake right there just by the nose. Don't worry about that. That's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, we'll survive.
It'll be fine. You're bigger than the hole. It's okay. Insane. So, if you guys got any stories about cool stunts or stuff that you've seen that you never thought was possible, please, by all means, hit us up on our website, on our email, or our socials, by all means, because as crazy as this stunt is, I'm pretty sure there's other ones that are equally as crazy, like trying to land on a mountaintop that only has like 3 feet of runway or 3 feet of landing before it careens off into the ravine.
Well, I mean, they already have the STOL competitions, the short takeoff and landing, where they get like these guys and Super Cubs that can land in like 50 feet on a riverbed type thing and take off in 80 feet type thing. They're pretty sweet. If you've never seen those, check those out. They're pretty wild. Some of these pilots can almost hover these like tail draggers, right? Mm-hmm. Like a Super Cub, hover them almost like a helicopter. It's crazy.
That is pretty crazy.
They just float in.
Yeah. I mean, I personally haven't seen it, but now I'm curious. I want to see it.
Yeah, check them out. The STOLs, the short takeoff and landing competitions, they're wild, dude.
That is pretty dope.
Or just watch like videos of like Alaskan bush pilots and stuff and some of the things that they're out there doing. It's pretty cool.
Those I have seen. That is freaking nuts. But if you guys seen some stunts, or of some stunts that are just like off the wall, like this should be on a record book, but it wasn't because it wasn't officiated
sanctioned,
or something like that.
It wasn't
sanctioned,
approved, air quotes approved.
Please let us know. Like we're curious to hear those stories. And again, if you guys know a little bit more in depth about the mechanical engineering and the what have yous that would make this flight happen or this stunt happen, please again let us know. We're always down to hear this, and we're down to learn how it all works and how it all ties in.
Yes, sir.
On that note, I got nothing else for closing thoughts. Do you have anything, MVP?
Nope, nothing else to close out on this. And I guess Carpe Diem.
Carpe Diem, right? Chug some Red Bull and
seize the carp.
Seize the carp,
as they say.
Thanks, everybody. See you on the next one.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. We'd like to take this time to thank our patrons for supporting our show and allowing us to continue to make episodes, maintain our gear, and create merch for all of our listeners, with special thanks to Erica Lamont, Chris Hawkins, Ryan Freshour, Dan Schubert, Jenny Dignan, and the ladies of the Dick Talk and Mimosas podcast. Thank you all so much for your support and patronage. Visit our shop at cancelformaintenance.com and grab some swag to show off both your support for us and your prowess as an aircraft technician. If you have ideas for the show or you would like to be a guest on the show, visit our contact us section and send us a line. We will do what we can to get your ideas or yourself on the show. You can also follow us on social media, such as on Facebook at Cancel for Maintenance, Instagram at Canx, that's CANX for Maintenance Podcast, or on Twitter at CXMX Podcast. Check out some of our affiliates like Rockwell Time, where they make both rugged and classy watches to fit your lifestyle. Use the code CX4MX and save 10% off your purchase. Support us on Patreon. Our patrons get exclusive perks such as access to our Discord, discounts and early access to merch, special patron-only episodes, and so much more. Thank you again so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.